All right, thanks for all who have joined us today. We've got a great discussion today, a great panel. I'm really excited about this. We're going to be discussing the technologies and trends from KBIS and IBS if you missed it, or maybe you went and you didn't see everything you wanted to see, or maybe there's some things you didn't know you missed. So a couple of things before we start. At the end, we will be giving away a GE Profile Opal nugget ice maker. That's hard. That's easy for you to say, right? These things are great. Everybody loves these. Makes the little nugget ice cubes. So, and the other thing is, if you have questions along the way, put it in the chat, and we will address those at the end. So, let's go ahead and get started.
Hi, and welcome to the Innovative Design and Home Technology Trends from KBIS IBIS 2022 webinar, brought to you by BMD and GE Appliances. I'm Erica Bovard. I'm the Director of Marketing at GE Appliances for our Builder channel, and I'm joined with an amazing cast of folks from different pieces of business. So I'm going to introduce each of them. So Ryan, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Rutzik. I'm the president of All Incorporated. We're based in Minneapolis. We're a kitchen appliance and cabinet distributor.
I'm Jeremy Miller, and I'm the Senior Commercial Director at Smart Home Solutions for GE Appliances.
Hi, I'm TK Wismer. I'm a designer, and I've worked with the GEA brands over the past 5 years at the KBIS shows.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So we have three different folks, Ryan, Jeremy, and TK, from different perspectives, and we're going to talk about everything KBIS, IBIS. If you were able to join, our top recommendations and takeaways, and if you weren't able to join, things that you may have missed that you don't want to miss out on. So Ryan's going to give us the business perspective from builders, distributors. Jeremy's going to give us the perspective from a Smart Home Solutions, and TK is going to bring her perspective on design and trends, things that you can't miss out on. So first thing, Ryan, let's go to you first. I want to hear just, we haven't been to KBIS IBIS for a couple years in person. What are your thoughts about the industry as an overall? Any quick perspectives on the show, big themes, trends that you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously we've been living in a trying time with a lot of people having to be at home a lot. And I think there's been a renewed interest in your own home space. And with that, I think it's really driven a lot of the new innovation, new features, accessorizing, customization in the industry. And that's really been phenomenal to see. And it was fully represented at the show.
Awesome. Jeremy, what about you? Same question.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. I think there was a lot of really cool innovation that I saw around things like sustainable materials that I think are going to become more and more top of mind for home buyers and builders, which is really exciting. And I actually think some of that stuff is going to have really positive downstream effect on things like IoT overall. So, when you look at the complete picture, I think there's just overall innovation occurring, which is, I think, like Ryan said, an effect of people wanting to invest in more in their home space.
And TK, what about you? Haven't planned a live show for a while. Talk to us about the 17,000 square foot booth that you designed for GE Appliances, and then any other big takeaways you saw, inspiration from others.
Yeah, it was really great to return to in person. The biggest benefit of these shows is, that people get access to the brands they love. So even though we were able to pull off a virtual show last year, being able to return to that in-person, face-to-face interaction was phenomenal. And then seeing some of the new innovations coming out, some of the new trends that we're really focusing on for the next year to two, was really just an inspiring week.
Well, let's get into it. So TK, what are some things that you saw that made you take a double take, made you look at a little bit differently? And is there anything that you saw that you're definitely going to put in your own home?
I'd love to put it all in my own home. I think we saw a lot of emphasis on biophilic design, and so really design inspired by nature, but as an aesthetic, this comes through in color palettes like the natural blues and greens, and then a lot of the wood tones. But then it also comes into play with materials, sustainable materials as well. Like some of the cork, the new recycled composites, things like that. But then also it comes into your initiatives, you know, what the brands are doing to look at sustainability. You know, are you doing anything with water conservation? Are you doing, you know, things that help with food change, food freshness, you know, food conservation, things like that. So there was a lot of attention around that overarching theme from both an innovation and aesthetic perspective. I think also flex extensions and functionality in the home. As we mentioned before, we're all stuck in this space together. Sometimes multi-generations, we need to maximize what we have. And at the same time, we're buying more supplies. We are getting more experimental with our, you know, with our culinary taste. And so we need more storage. We need more solutions around that. So one of the things I'm excited to bring home is, you know, some of these really cool pantry layouts, as well as some of the smaller appliances that I even saw that help you kind of take on some new recipes. And then food freshness, and even seeing things, you know, that you can grow food in the home. Those were really cool. And then also I love some of the kind of DIY upgrades that builders can use for new buildings, but then also people can, you know, after the fact apply in their home. So like hardware finishes that are interchangeable, you know, some of those over the air updates, things like that, that really you can just kind of add to your kitchen now, even if you're not building from scratch.
That's awesome. I'd love to lean in a little bit more to the biophilic design. I know it's mostly the kitchen and bath show, so we're talking about in-home, but are you seeing any trends of that trickling into the corporate space or into office space as different companies are returning to office more routinely versus only being remote?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it goes beyond just adding, you know, nature and plants into your space. It gets into, you know, things like lighting and, you know, considerations like blue light that we're all on our screens now. It gets into air quality. Really, you can pull it into all of those different things at home or in the office space. But also, I loved all of the color palettes with those blues and greens really kind of taking off this year. And some of the warmer neutrals that we're seeing a lot of that really kind of give you that feel good sense while you're hard at work.
Jeremy, I'd love to hear your perspective from the over-the-air upgrades, and then TK also mentioned some of that healthy home, kind of healthy living. How can smart technology and things that you saw at the show, from your perspective, how is that being brought forward this year in terms of trends?
Yeah, I think on upgradability, obviously we've done some things there with our cooking products and even on our laundry products in the past, where people are going to start to update their appliances and add new features to them over time. And I think what that'll do for the consumer or homeowner is actually allow them to personalize their experience on these devices. I mean, much like we do with our smartphones, no two smartphones are alike, right? You have certain apps and functionality that you use that some other people don't. And I think we have to continue to adapt our appliance platforms in that way. And I think, as you continue to watch how these systems evolve, you're going to start to see more of that. And then I think the other thing that's really exciting, at least I'm super excited about, is when we think about healthy living and we think about health outcomes and nutrition outcomes, everybody pretty much has kind of like a nutrition goal, whether it's stated or not stated. All of us have certain things that we do when we plan our meals and how we want to go about the cooking process. And artificial intelligence, while it's thrown around a lot throughout many industries, is getting to the point where it's almost like a commodity where you can start to apply it in all sorts of really imaginative ways to help people get the experience that they're looking for to help them achieve their goals. And so one example of this is recipe content. If we think about that, where as you start to engage with different pieces of content within a recipe and you start to define the things that you want to do and how you want to do them, we can start to personalize what is recommended on an individual level, even within people within the home. So, you may have a vegan in the home and everybody else is not vegan. And so we can start to understand those things about each individual person and make sure we're giving them the right content so they can actually do the things in their house that really help them achieve those nutrition goals. So I think that's going to be in the near term. That's no longer kind of like this big, like, oh yeah, in 5 years. I think this is stuff that's 12 months away. It's going to be very soon when you start to see this stuff.
And Ryan, from your perspective, so being president of a large distributor, and then as you have builder customers and even consumer customers coming in, how does this give you an advantage, and how do you see this being a trend in 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, I think all of our customers are looking to differentiate from one another, and they're gearing, especially today with a lot of the communities that they're in. Each community can be geared towards a certain demographic or type of consumer. And what's interesting today is just so exciting to watch the advancement in technology. Probably 10, 15 years ago, we were talking about Wi-Fi and what that would look like. And I think a lot of us didn't really truly understand its application, its benefits, but you're actually truly starting to see those being integrated within the appliances, much to what Jeremy is saying with, and it's really about just adaptive usage and understanding like what consumers need and want. And I think from a builder's perspective, that's just incredible to be able to differentiate each individual community, each individual apartment building to the demographic of those tenants and residents. So yeah, it's super exciting to watch that along with a lot of the other innovations aesthetically as well.
Anything that made you take a double take, anything that you're bringing home, whether it's to your company or to your personal use that you saw at KBIS IBIS?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of really neat, innovative things that are out there right now. I probably, if I had my choice, probably 5 or 6 different ones. But I was really blown away with the Monogram Designer collection. That range was just truly beautiful. It's literally a work of art with the incorporation of titanium and bronze accents and leather even. So that luxury is really neat. Some of the new colors that are out in the marketplace, sapphire blue laundry, thought that looked really neat and cool. And then just again, with some of the technologies that are in place, whether the steam technology is, seems to be integrated in almost nearly every appliance line. Aesthetically, there's products that have a lot more minimalistic look and approach. There's push to open. There's no touch open. There's side swinging oven doors. So I mean, there's just it's really cool. I was really kind of geeking out throughout the whole week here to see all the new products that are on the marketplace.
That's great. That's awesome. So let's shift a little bit, a little bit of the not so big elephant, I guess, in the room, but talking about supply chain. So, it's obviously a big topic for appliances, everything really in the builder industry. So I'm going to pass it to you, TK, from kind of your perspective. Any new trends, new things that you're seeing, hearing from the show as you're talking to clients, builders, designers that are coming through? Who's doing it well? What are people doing, and what are businesses doing that are kind of helping mitigate some of that? Anything from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, brands have a lot to answer to now. People want to know really, who they're buying from. They want to know, what your story is. They want to know about your initiatives. They want to know about your approach to sustainability, and they want to know where your products are. So I think that the brands that really showed up and had, well-informed representatives there to talk to people and discuss what the challenges are and to really be accessible and just face it head on, those made the biggest impression on me. And and a lot of these companies are getting into telling more of their story. Like I said, and they did it in a lot of different ways. And I saw some really great examples with information and then that approachability of some of the people in the booth. So I think that's important. That's what makes these shows so successful, is again, like we started off saying, access to the brands that you love. So I saw some great examples of that.
And Jeremy, similar question to you, but thinking through from like a smart home perspective, I know there's different technologies, whether it's from G appliances or others that you saw, thinking about just improving supply chain or even being able to kind of access data in a little bit different way. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I think in addition to the supply chain, kind of challenges everybody's facing. I mean, it's just labor shortages and things like that all over the place. And so I think, one area where IoT devices and smart appliances really can actually help with that is if you think about things like remote monitoring, being able to know what's going on with an appliance from afar, right? Logging into web portals, seeing service codes, and knowing what needs to be addressed and how it should be addressed. Even things like service call avoidance. These are things that can help free up, labor, decrease costs, really optimize how people serve their customers and owners. And so I think software is kind of like that's what it's designed for, right? It's trying to optimize a problem where humans are starting to struggle to maintain some sort of efficiency. And so I think as we continue to develop new services and new features for our appliances, you'll see businesses be able to scale a little bit better, especially in the context of labor. When it comes to supply chain overall, I make software. I can make as many copies as you want, so I'm okay.
And Ryan, from builder business owner perspective, things that maybe you're doing or things that you're looking for in partners, things that you heard at the show that gave you kind of hope, let's say, for the future, supply chain wise.
Yeah, it's an incredibly dynamic aspect of the business. I would say this whole thing has just been a learning experience. So you learn really the global nature of our industry and how parts, can domino and, can affect supply chain dramatically. So we've learned on that side. We've worked closely with a lot of our partners to understand what models are being focused on. I think that's an important aspect. We may have a desired model. It may not always come to you though. So we've learned a lot about that, and we're trying to be a lot more proactive in getting orders in sooner than we ever would, and then trying to bring product in as soon as we possibly can. And due to that, our inventory has unfortunately gone up about 25%, but it's the reality of what we're dealing with today, and we need to make sure we have product available for when a homeowner moves into their home. But yeah, overall, it's just been incredibly dynamic, and yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic for 2022.
Let's talk a little bit about things that you're bringing back to your team. So whether I know we talked a little bit about themes and trends and different ideas, but TK, I'd love to hear from you, your perspective. Like, what are some things that you're going to take back to your team and say, hey, these are the things that we must either implement or things that we definitely saw, whether it's in the appliance category or just home category as a whole?
Yeah, I think, in some of what we do in the booths, it's that storytelling, trying to get that story out there and the messaging. And then I was really intrigued by some of the aging in place and accessible design solutions. That's a category that, we're really trying to dive into. We have some, under counter products that help with that, as well as wall ovens, all kinds of things, induction. So really trying to include more of those. A lot of just bold designs and personalization, customization. I think especially in the kitchen space, we're always telling people to be brave, not worry too much about designing for resale value, because that's a lot of money to spend on people you don't know. So really making your space your own. So all of those, highly personalized, customized products that you can really make your own. So that was inspiring.
So would you say are white cabinets in or are they on their way out? What's your take?
Gosh, don't get me in trouble. White cabinets serve a purpose. They sure do. But I do think a lot of the warmer, like we said, the wood tones are coming back. And then you'll see a lot of blues and greens being added to, the stock offerings from cabinet companies now, as, people really embrace those colors in the kitchen again.
And Jeremy, what about you? What are some things that you're bringing back either to your team to dig into, companies that you saw, integration opportunities? Would also love to get your thoughts on kind of universal design aging in place, as that's a large population for the future. And how do you think about technology in the smart home in that regard?
Yeah, I think some of the really interesting things that we will start to pay attention to more and more. Indoor air quality is, I think, very top of mind for just about everybody, and that includes multifamily. I did hear from multifamily developers that even residents who live in their properties, they bring up indoor air quality, especially as people become more aware, um, of basically uh, the different fumes and things like that that come off their cleaning products. And then we also know things like allergens, right? I mean, it's different from house to house, and people have different needs. And so I think there are people out there that are starting to address that. We saw one vendor, Revent, who had some really interesting IoT indoor air quality solutions. And so I think we need to start to figure out how does that play into the overall home. Some appliances circulate air too. So can that be part of the ecosystem when people are really trying to figure out how to maximize indoor air quality without consuming too much power? Because the other challenge you have with a lot of systems, it seems like, is that it relies heavily on the HVAC system, which we know is a major power consumption engine in the house. And so if that's the system through which you're circulating air, while you may be improving your indoor air quality, maybe you're not net zero on your carbon footprint. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some innovation there and continue to look at ways that we can be a part of that ecosystem to improve that. One that I'm particularly passionate about is water quality, water efficiency, water management. I think a lot of people are starting to become more conscious of how they can improve their water consumption in their homes. They haven't really had to have the tools so far. I mean, a lot of people get their water bill and they kind of try to figure out how to do better from there. But I think now with a lot of sensors, a lot of smarter appliances, a lot more smart technology, it's going to become easier to really understand your water consumption behaviors and patterns and optimize that, so you can actually be having a positive impact on water consumption. And I'm from California originally. Um, it's boom and bust water cycles there, and wildfires are just a nightmare. And so it's very top of mind for a lot of people. And then I also think on water quality overall, we know a lot of cities and towns don't necessarily have as good of water as we do here in Louisville, for example. But I think that's becoming more accessible, right? Whole home water filtration systems are becoming more and more inexpensive, and I think the more people can become aware of the positive impact that can have on not just their health, but the overall performance of the products in their home that use water, I think more and more people are going to start to include that in their construction projects. More and more people are going to want to demand that as they're buying a home and looking at those things. I would say the last one, I kind of am very curious about too, is the resurgence of the home AV system integrator. I think there was a big pendulum swing on kind of build your own IoT smart home. And everybody kind of just decided that if they wanted to do something smart and sophisticated in their house, they could go to Best Buy and just cobble it together, which they still can. And there's obviously nothing wrong with that. That's still a very powerful way to configure your smart home. But I do think on, more higher end construction projects, there is still an expectation from the home buyer that they need something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more integrated. And there's all sorts of really cool stuff like Josh AI. Like that's something I'm very, very curious about, which is a voice assistant that can work locally within the home. It doesn't need to connect to anybody's cloud. And obviously that has great privacy impact for people. And so I think that's something else that my team needs to start to look at as we think about serving the builder market. I think, again, this is where AI can come into play and do some really interesting, unique things. And so some of the stuff that we've been talking about with some of our partners and customers and builders, everybody talks about kind of this idea that for people who are aging in place, or maybe who are getting care at home, um, or maybe even living at home, right, alone or with others and aging in place, people kind of want to, their close family want checking on them and know how they're doing. And everybody talks about this use case of, well, if I just knew the refrigerator door was opened, then maybe that would at least tell me that they're okay. Well, what if your grandmother's the type of person that opens the refrigerator door every 30 minutes? You know, once a day is not going to be the best signal. So using deep learning models, and we see people doing this all over the place, they can start to really understand the pattern of how people live at home. And if those patterns are broken, then maybe that's something that requires attention. Maybe somebody needs to get alerted. Maybe somebody needs to reach out. So I think, that's something that you'll continue to see make its way into the marketplace. And again, I think a lot of that can be done now at the edge to maintain people's privacy. And so it's not something where you're being spied on constantly. It's really just something that happens naturally in your living environment.
Yeah, I think the concept of universal design and whether it's appliances that get better over time and upgrade just like your phone on our GE profile line, or the design aesthetics of the home are going to be a huge thing. So before we go to Ryan, I want to make sure if anyone has any questions, make sure you pop them in the chat, because we'll do a Q&A right at the end here. But I'm going to pass it over to Ryan. So just to kind of double tap into what TK and Jeremy are saying about design, you from your perspective as you're working with builders, and what are you bringing back to your team of things that you're making sure that you're going to incorporate into your sales process or into your business as a whole?
Yeah, I think the main thing I got to take back is I got to redo my showroom. So there's just so much product out there that we need to start integrating and showing some of our customers some of the neat new stuff that's out there. Induction has been one, obviously, that's been growing over the last 10, 15 years. And it's really coming to the point where it's affordable. And in states like California, there's just drastic regulatory changes to where gas isn't an option anymore. So we'll be definitely focusing more on that. I think the whole customization and accents will be even more pronounced over the coming years. So we'll be making sure our salespeople are experts in appliances, not necessarily design. So it's something that we'll have to be educating them on what is the proper accent points or decor they could put into their kitchens. In addition, there's just and then in connectivity, we'll be building upon that in our showroom. We do have a room that features connectivity and how that can impact home automation. So we'll be focusing a lot more on that, and there's just a lot to learn. So we're really excited to learn more and communicate that to our builder customers and those consumers.
Awesome, that's great. And if anyone has any questions to pop in the chat, go ahead and put that in the chat now, and we'll do a live Q&A at the end. Okay, as we close, I want to have everyone just go around. Ryan, I'm going to start with you, so think about what you want to say. But we'll lead with one company or brand or site that you need to go visit in prep for this year, cool trend or anything like that you saw at KBIS IBS.
From an appliance standpoint, I definitely, again, I know it's GE's part of this, but GE really did probably the most phenomenal booth at the show with just the whole array and the whole collection of appliances from standard GE all the way up to GE Monogram. And I mean, just the amount of technology, new look, innovation is just really kind of blowing me away. So I definitely say it was the GE booth.
Anything out of category from appliances? Anything else?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of interest in outdoor cooking. So there were a lot of pretty neat setups for grilling and incorporating other appliances to the outside. Metal cabinetry seemed to be a popular trend, and then just features and products out there that have really been with regard to home automation have really it's kind of a new corner, so to speak, that we're all excited to see.
All right, TK.
Well, I mean, which booths I think you need to see. But I think outside of our, the Cafe Profile, GE, Hot Point, Higher, and Monogram booths, you should try to get over to, like Kohler was really impressive. Just what they're doing with finishes and storytelling overall. You really get a sense of the brand over there. So yeah, that was a favorite. And then, some of the smaller, first time showers. I love supporting people getting involved in the show and in the industry. So making your way around to the edges of the show is always something I try to do, and get to know those people, because it's really fun to see some of those artisans kind of take off over the next few years. So that's always something that I like as a designer, is meeting some of the smaller makers.
That's great. And Jeremy, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with TK. I really liked what Moen and Kohler really were showing off. I think they did a really great job of maintaining the product look and feel and finish while still adding in IoT. And I think that's always just one of the great things people need to keep in mind, especially when they're designing for their homes. And I know designers think about this all the time, is while smart home technology is desired, it should also be kind of seamlessly integrated into what's already there. So almost out of sight. And so I think they do a great job of that. Like, their stuff looks great, but it's smart, and you wouldn't know that unless obviously you saw the demonstrations and things like that. And so I think that's a great move on their part. And it was just a really great demonstration too of their product. It was a fun booth to be in.
Awesome. Well, as we close, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today to our Innovation Design and Home Technology Trends from KBIS IBIS 2022. We're going to open it up for chat here in just a moment. And be sure to check out the GE Appliances virtual experience coming soon. Thanks so much.
All right, great conversation today. I appreciate all our presenters today. And if each of you can go ahead and pop on screen as you get a chance, we'll start addressing some of the questions. But first of all, we are giving away the GE Profile Opal Nugget Ice Maker. Everybody raves about this thing. Everybody loves these cubes. So in order to win that, just scan the code and you can fill out the survey, and we will actually announce the winner next week. So we'll also send the link for that in the follow-up email that you'll get after the webinar. So let's go ahead and move over to the question and answers. And just I'm going to turn this over to Dalila, and Dalila, let us know what questions we've got right now.
Great, thanks, Mark. One of the questions, we have quite a bit of questions, and we'll start. This is for the whole team. What are your thoughts about the industry as a whole? Maybe your overall perspective of the show, big trends and themes.
I'm happy to answer. This is Ryan. Like I said before, I think there's just an incredible amount of investment going into appliances specifically. The direction and engineering focus by all the manufacturers really are, the competition between everybody is just, I think competition is always a good thing. So the more each manufacturer is driving one another to differentiate and create more innovation, I think the better it is for the industry as a whole.
Thanks, Ryan. Did anyone else want to chime in there?
Hey, this is Jeremy on the Smart Home team. Yeah, the only thing I would add is just, like many things, as we see the cost of different components for things like connectivity come down, I think you're going to start to see more innovation happening on local networks. Sometimes what we call, either the edge or just in home. So, I think there'll be a lot of advances for smart appliances and IoT where you see some really sophisticated things happening without you even need to be on the internet.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Jeremy. I know we touched a little bit about the supply chain challenges. We did have a question. Are you guys seeing any key themes of the supply chain challenges, like the perspectives, or are companies what do you think companies are doing to improve that, or any best practices you're seeing or hearing?
Could you repeat the first part of the question, please?
Yeah, sorry, apologies. What are the key themes from supply chain challenges perspective?
Well, I think for most of us, speaking from a distributor or dealer standpoint, is to make sure that we understand when our customer or consumer needs their appliances, and we're trying to order and communicate with our manufacturers as much as possible. I think we've, over the past year, have been a little bit more liberal with bringing in product early, solely with the intention of making sure we have product available. So I think we've had to be more flexible due to that. I think the other aspect is making sure that we handle the appliance with care for holding on to it longer. We want to make sure it's not being moved to many places to avoid any damage, because obviously the back end, if there's any issue with the product being damaged or needs to be returned and replaced, can exacerbate a stressful situation even worse.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Are you guys seeing any, another question, what's the biggest shift you're seeing with builders, distributors, designers, manufacturers, or home builders that are being made?
I think builders and everybody tied to the home building industry are, as I mentioned, a lot more cognizant of supply chain constraints and issues. So I think it's forced everybody to make sure we are more organized and getting orders in as soon as possible. So but it's also incumbent upon us as the dealer distributor to make sure that we're communicating any problem models or anticipated delays with product availability.
And I can add to that. This is Erica from GE Appliances. I think another shift from the marketing perspective that we're seeing is much more of a digital experience, whether it's through the builder or in a showroom, regardless of product that you're seeing, but really leaning into the brands that you're offering for content resources, and having that kind of online experience, regardless if it's B2B or B2B2C. It's another big shift that I'm seeing from the marketing side. Jeremy, to you.
Yeah, on the IoT side, one thing that we consistently hear from builders is things like smart laundry being highly desirable, which I thought was kind of interesting when we think about the kitchen being such a powerful place for smart appliances and things like that. But, laundry ranked very, very high with our builders in terms of what their customers and buyers were looking for. Plus, even in our own sampling of consumers, smart laundry continues to be very top of mind. So I think that's really interesting. And then the other, I know it's not on the single family side so much, but on the multifamily or even single family build to rent, it goes without saying, it used to be that Wi-Fi was something people were dabbling in, but I think COVID, work from home, flexible work, gaming, things like that are causing more and more people who build homes to really invest and think about how Wi-Fi is going to play into those properties.
Thank you, guys. I know I don't like doing my laundry. Smart laundry sounds fantastic. Moving on, we do have another question about KBIS. What are some of the products and categories that you saw that made you take another look? Anything you're planning to maybe add to your showroom or even your own home?
I really like the G Profile has a side swing oven that is out in the market. I really like that. It's really user-friendly piece for people that like to bake a lot, which my wife does. So that's next on our wish list.
I think for me, it's whole home water filtration. There's a lot of solutions out there. I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're way more accessible than they used to be. Water quality is not just also something that is good for us as we drink water and wanting pure water, but I was educated on the fact that having whole home water filtration can extend the life of your products, your appliances, things like water heaters can last longer if you're removing sediment that's coming in through that main water line. So to me, like, it's a low cost but very rich return on my investment kind of thing that I'm definitely going to be looking into.
All right, we can move on to the next question. What are the 3 things you are going to bring back to your team as any takeaways that you guys saw at the show, key actions, maybe some appliances?
I think for us, just getting into that supply chain topic is to make sure that we're selling product that the manufacturers are focused on. There is, usually within the builder industry, there's focus models that we should be geared towards selling to ensure that we have good availability. So I think that's part of being a good dealer distributor, is to make sure that we are giving offerings that are readily available.
All right, great. Well, Dalila, thanks. And I want to extend a special thanks to our panel, TK, Ryan, Jeremy, and of course, Erica. Thanks for hosting this for us. Great information, and a lot of us didn't get a chance to go down to Orlando this year, and so I think we gave some great highlights. GE provided some great video of the show. I think that was a neat part of that thing, just to see some of the things that we didn't get to see in person. So really appreciate the time. Again, we'll do the drawing for the ice cube maker next week. So if you make sure you fill out that survey, we'll get you entered into that drawing, and we'll announce that next week. So thanks for taking the time. And Erica, thank you so much for helping us coordinate this and for sponsoring us with GE and your participation in this. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks.